Hello, friends, and welcome to Service of Change's Changecast, your podcast for change. I'm your host, Dennis Nappy II, with Service of Change, where small changes among the masses can have a massive impact around the world. Have an exciting show for you tonight. Consciousness and intuition. There is more to us than we really perceive at this point in time. And intuition, how to follow your gut, how to follow your instinct, not only to keep yourself out of trouble, but to make a difference in this world. So Joel and I are going to get in that this evening. We've got our good friend Lori Latimer who's going to pop in for a minute. She's working the Twitter feeds for us to try to help spread the word and enhance our discussion and encourage all of you out there to join us this evening, to join us with some comments and questions that you may have, and just to be a part of the show, because that's what we're looking for. But before we get into the show, let me bring on my esteemed co-host. I don't have a fancy intro tonight because I've been going so crazy running around trying to get stuff done. But as always, we have Joel, the provocateur Schaefer. Joel, what's going on tonight, dude? And things just went silent. Lori's back. Oh, she left. She's back. She left.
No,
She's back.
no, I'm here. I'm here.
Lori, okay, I saw your mic coming on and off. Joel, whenever you get audio back, just pop back on with us. But let me jump to Lori. Lori, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing awesome this evening.
Had judo and would you say acupuncture tonight, right?
Yes, yes. So, and I've had a pretty good week so far. But yeah, got a tune-up at acupuncture, and then went to judo practice. So I am in a pretty great mood.
How well does, I mean, how many, I'm interested in acupuncture, with like a lot of the Tai Chi and stuff that I'm studying. That's kind of next on my list of things to do. Number one, how many needles do they stick in you when you go there?
Well, it really depends. I go to a Chinese 5 elements acupuncturist, so they have a specific kind of school of thought that they're looking for, and they are very conscious of how seasons affect the body and things like that. So it depends on what I go in for. If I'm having some physical issues, that'll be a certain set of points on my body. If I come in and I just say I'm super stressed, I'm feeling tired and anxious, that's a whole other set of points on my body. So and it's always symmetrical. So wherever you are on one side, you do on the other, so that your chi will stay.
You're balanced, right? Now, they're going off the meridian lines running down your body, right?
Yeah, yeah, and tonight, because I've been doing all right, so it's just kind of a tune-up. She also did some moxa, which are herbs that she'll like make a little paste and put a small point, like where a needle would go in my body, and then light it on fire for a second.
Okay.
And then she puts it out, when it gets too hot.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So it's another kind of healing.
Yeah. No, I've been reading about acupuncture and the different systems of the body and linking it with the seasons. I mean, there's even I'm reading a book on astrology right now and talks about different points in the body align with different astrological signs. I mean, it's crazy, how deep this can go. But just the basic function and premise of chi, I was using acupressure on my kids. They had the sinus infection going on. I always tried on myself first. My head was just all congested over the Christmas holiday, and I was just pressing on that point in my foot, and it would clear my sinuses after about a minute of holding it. So it works pretty well. Definitely worth exploring, I would say.
Yes, yes.
All right, you know what? Joel is I'm texting Joel back and forth. He says he can hear us loud and clear. Joel, are you there? Are you with us? Can we hear any audio from you?
I am here. I was just listening to you guys. I didn't want to jump in and be like, I'm back!
Fantastic.
I was just waiting patiently for the right moment to re-announce my presence.
Well,
so,
I'm glad you're here. Lori and I were just going over, her acupuncture and the benefits of that offers. So, good stuff. So, Joel, actually, let me just continue with Lori real quick, and then you and I can jump into the bulk of our show. But Lori, you have an announcement about your book, right? The Art of Service.
Yes, yes. I am very excited to tell the world that we will officially release the book on May 2nd. And even better, you can now pre-order the e-version of the book on Amazon. So it's really happening. You can find the link for me. Either I posted on Twitter. It's also on the Service of Change Facebook page and the blog, and so I'm so excited that it's happening.
And if you're watching via Google Hangouts, it's going to be on the right-hand side in the showcase.
Mm-hmm.
There's a link set up there for you right now to pre-order it. It's just 99 cents to get the Kindle version. That'll be beamed right to your device on May 2nd, so you can start getting some inspiration of those inspirational haikus. Also on the Service of Change site associated with this Changecast, there's a link right there for her as well, for Lori's book as well.
Mm-hmm.
Please support this project. It's a great project. Only costs you 99 cents, and it's really going to help Lori out as she's embarking on her writing career. So it's really well worth the 99 cents. So look for more to come at Service of Change regarding Lori's project and all the good stuff that's coming out of it. So Lori's going to be doing some tweeting for us tonight, trying to spread the word of change. So I'm going to let her get back to that, unless Lori has any final words or farewells here.
Nope, just if you want to send questions my way, my Twitter handle is at Lori Latimer 1.
Good stuff.
Nice.
Okay. All right. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Lori.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Bye-bye. So Joel, I think that the universe knows what type of show we're doing tonight, because literally as soon as I said I'm going to bring on my esteemed co-host Joel the Provocateur Schaefer, what's going on, buddy? As soon as I said buddy, you just faded out, dude. You were completely gone.
Oh, wow. I thought at least I got in the part where I said I was excited to share this journey with you.
Dude, I got nothing whatsoever.
Well,
but it
you
was
handled
seamless.
it well.
Yeah, I was just saying, Lori and I were talking about that before the show, how good you and I have gotten at just going through those glitches that we encounter each day and making it seamless. It almost seems like it's planned, I think. I think we're getting that good at dealing with errors. I hope we are anyway. So it's good stuff. So how are you, dude? What's been going on, man?
Oh, I'm good.
Yeah?
I'm good. There's always challenges, but I'm learning, and I have learned to embrace the challenges and learn from them. So,
it's neat seeing, as we go through our shows. This is our 37th show, I want to say, and I think, you've been with me for 30 of those shows. We're either at 37 or 38. Each show you talk about that, how you're learning, you're growing, and you have been. It's neat watching the journey. Go back and listen to our listeners out there. Go back and listen to, I think it was episode 8, where it was, meeting Joel, and he comes in and he talks about himself and kind of what he's been through. And it's been quite the journey, just hearing how Joel deals with his stress, and I think you're getting a lot better at it. That's pretty cool to see that progress.
Thank
you got like an audio diary or an audio journal to go back and listen to. I think about that sometimes. Are my kids one day going to come across these Changecasts and be like, either they're going to say, wow, my dad was really a weird guy, but I don't know. I hope they take some inspiration from it.
Or they're going to be like, those guys were prophets.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, me too.
That's what I'm hoping for. I'm like, wow, they nailed it. They definitely figured it out. So yeah, man, it's definitely neat, being a part of this and having all these things archived and stuff. How's stuff going in Cyberland for you? Had any good arguments lately?
I've been kind of falling back a little bit.
Right.
I still say some things here and there. I've just noticed, and this could be a topic for a whole nother show, but it looks like people everywhere want to be their own little celebrities. So, and it's just kind of off-putting. It seems like people are becoming more and more self-absorbed online.
Yeah.
And they're less interested in other people, and they want. And hey, I'm an attention seeker too. I like attention, but I also like a good conversation. So that, and it just seemed like the news outlets are getting more and more sensationalized and clickbaiting and tabloid journalism, and it's hard to find really
authentic.
really good information that's balanced. I mean, you can still find it if you look, but it's just emotional distraction after emotional distraction, and I've been falling for it for months, where I'm like, that makes me mad. And we had talked about it, how and you clued me in on that. It's that's where they want you. Not that they, certain groups of people benefit. They get traffic. They get traffic to their sites, and there's certain people who are in power who, I don't know if they're orchestrating it directly, but they like the confusion. The confusion makes it a little easier for them to do business.
It certainly does. You know, I came across something. Part of it was a bit on the extreme side, but it was something that again, we had talked about when we were talking about the. It was our podcast called. Who was it? The conspiracy within the conspiracy. Yeah, you bet we're on the same page. Yeah, conspiracy within the conspiracy, and this video is like a half-hour video called out a particular alternative media radio show host. I'm trying not to go there with naming these people at this point, but you know, they said this guy's working for the other side. If you want to take sides on it or whatever, you know, this guy's working for the other side, and I'm like, that's exactly what I've been saying. I mean, he's putting out the fear. He's putting out, you know, like I said, I always say, if somebody's telling you to prepare for revolution and go fight, you know, you better be careful with who you're following. I'm not saying don't be prepared, and you know, you can listen to our self-defense podcast on that one. I'm saying always be prepared, but you should start planning for the future that you envision, not the future that somebody else is going to impose on you through violence and force. Be ready to handle yourself,
right?
But we need to start working towards that positivity. You know, that's why on this show, like you and I talk about the scary stuff because I think that we need to know about it.
Sure.
We need to know about it not to scare you into doing something defensive, but to motivate you to do something offensive. That's going to be positive, you know. But I just think we're seeing so much of this. When people tell you, you got to wake up, and you got to fight. No, you don't have to fight. Just step away and go do something different, you know?
Well, that's interesting that's really interesting you say it that way, because it's like, it's almost as if the fight part is just part of waking up. It's like, wake up and fight. Like, they just throw the fight in there. Whereas, from what your perspective, you can parse it down, just wake up first. Like, maybe you do have to fight eventually, but wake up and fight? That's like jumping out of your bed and start swinging. Like, that's not a good strategy.
Dude,
you know what I mean?
That's boot camp right there, man. I remember waking up with a megaphone in my face. I would literally roll out of bed because we used to sleep on top of the covers, blankets, whatever, because we have to make the bed so tight. So we'd sleep on top of them, like freezing with no blankets because you didn't have enough time to make your bed in the morning. So they'd come in and you'd literally be laying there like huddled in a ball, and they'd start screaming at you, and you just kind of do this roll and like pancake onto the floor, you know, and just start doing your push-ups right away. And that's how they woke you up every single morning. So you know, that's the same thing that they want you to do here, is to like wake up and fight. But really, it's kind of wake up. Like when I wake up in the morning, I want to eat my breakfast.
Yeah, you want to get sustenance.
Yeah, you know. So when you know, that's why I try to stay away from the term wake up, because I think that term now has been corrupted. Yeah. So you know, I'm just going to say educate yourself. Yeah. You know, become aware, because people are uncovering what they call truth, but that truth is only a partial, tiny piece of it, because they're saying, let me give you some truth to keep you focused in this direction, while I'm going to hide the rest of the truth in a totally different direction. So I was taught in a course called Deception Denial. When the enemy's doing something that you're like, wow, this is incredible, let's say it's on your left-hand side, I always look the opposite way, because I'm looking for an ambush. You know, and that's just how I've been trained. You know, and I've uncovered a lot of stuff that way. I've definitely uncovered a lot of things.
That's classic battlefield strategy: is distract and then flank.
Right, and it's the same thing. You know, that's being used. Right, and it's the same thing that's being used with all this corporate propaganda on people. You know, they're just creating a bunch of confusion, because now even people that are credible within this truth movement, you just don't know who to trust anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not going to sit here and say, trust me and Joel. I'm going to say whatever we talk about on here, if it resonates with you, then it's probably right for you. If it doesn't, then do me a favor. Send me an email and tell me, hey, why don't you think about looking in this direction? I don't care about being right. I care about what's best for everybody, you know. So reach out to us that way. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, you know, I think we're trying to ask questions.
Yes.
So before we provide answers, first you have to ask the right question.
Right. And a lot of times we don't even know what that question is.
Exactly.
You know, and that's what the premise. I mean, you guys know I've got a big writing project going on right now. And for the longest time, I didn't even know what the question was. You know, and that's you know, it's kind of like that moment you're standing before Morpheus in the Matrix. He says, "You know what the question is," just as I do. And Neo's like, "What is the Matrix?" Well, I'm sitting there going, at that point in my life, if he would have asked me, I said, "I don't. What is the question?" Is what I would have said, because sometimes you don't even know. You just know something's wrong, something's not right. You know, so have the courage to explore it. Have the courage to look into that. So speaking of this kind of stuff, you know, I got into I felt like you actually, Joel. I tried to reserve myself a little bit, but I got so frustrated. Remember I talked about that article I posted about plants and how they were recognizing somebody's intent to do harm, and they were resonating on a polygraph test. A lot of information out there. So I put it out there on a group that I joined through my Goodreads authors group, the authors website, the reading website, and I got a lot of good discussion about it, back and forth. Some people saying, I don't think it's right. I don't buy into this research, and they were giving their reasons why. It was all respectful. And then I get this guy that jumps on there, and he goes, "This is the same inconclusive stuff," you know, and he talks in, for instances. He says, let's say we have problem X and problem Y, and he's not giving any specifics. And he goes on to like this 2-page rant about, and he said things like, you know, if you don't have X, Y, Z, you're just wasting your time and everybody else's time. You know, so until you get a clear objective, stop wasting any more time on this. And I ripped into him, and I'm like, you know what, bro, listen. I said, if you disagree, if you think this is a waste of time, then keep scrolling past this discussion. But I'm so sick and tired of people who like to argue just for the sake of arguing and putting people down. I said, whether I figure out if this is true or not, if plants really have more of an energetic consciousness, doesn't matter to me. I said, I mean, it's important to me, but I said, I've learned a lot in this journey. I said, and not only that, I walked away with a greater respect for nature and things around me. So on top of that, I'm having a lot of fun reading about it. So why are you going to come in here and try to put me down when I'm just enjoying learning? Whether I'm going to find out, hey, this isn't true, which has happened to me a lot of times. I've gotten behind things plenty of times, and then sometimes it's 2 years later, I'm like, whoa, I was wrong. But it's like, well, at least I know now, and I've grown from that journey. Let me go through that. Don't give me your negative crap. Get out of here with that stuff.
I think a lot of people online use, and I've done it too before, where they're using what's called a slippery slope art.
Right. And Joel, you just went quiet again. I heard slippery slope.
What essentially is displacements.
So I got you again. Hold on, Joel. I heard
shoot.
Slippery slope argument, and it skipped to displacement. But we covered. We're professional, man.
Okay.
So go on.
Okay.
Slippery slope argument. Let's hear. What is it?
So he might be upset about. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know. But, for instance, I could see somebody criticizing that conceivably, hypothetically, from the perspective of somebody who doesn't like pseudoscience. So that they're afraid that there's, like, climate change deniers and there's people that are against evolution. And so his worldview, he sees these people as enemy of truth. Right. And I'm somewhat, to a certain extent, empathetic with that view. But he'll come along and it's just like, well, if you even start going down this path, it's a slippery slope into superstition and into the type of like confusion that we were just criticizing. But the slippery slope like if he doesn't come out and say it, then because not all slopes are slippery, so there's an argument within the argument. You know what I mean? And if you put the caveat that, listen, I'm exploring this. I'm not putting this as the be all and end all of all search of knowledge. I'm just saying that this is intriguing. And I want to explore it. I think that that's a fair thing to say. I think it might be fair for him, on the other hand, to say, listen, this kind of thing scares me because it sounds like this other thing. And then you can be like, well, maybe it's different than this other thing. You know what I mean? Because I'm not denying, like I'm not using this to deny that human beings. In fact, that might even bolster an argument for helping our environment if that were his pretext for being upset with it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. You know, but that's not the way that he went, unfortunately.
Exactly.
Discussion. You know, I think he was just arguing to argue, and I'm like, dude, number one, you're in I forget what the name is, but it's a group that explores all things paranormal, UFOs, ETs, all that stuff. You know, so I mean, and people join those forums just to argue and just to debunk. I can't stand people that call themselves debunkers. Like, that's great to get to the truth, but if you get your rocks off on simply trying to embarrass people who have a genuine I have a genuine curiosity, and you know what, Joel? I'm at the point now where I'm not ashamed to talk about it. You know, so often we sit there and we get, you know, at least for me, my whole life, I wouldn't say certain things in public settings because, like, oh, people are going to make fun of me, or they're going to roll their eyes at me, they're going to think I'm nuts. You know what? Call me David Duchovny. I want to believe. There is more to this world. I've seen it. I've experienced it. I don't know. I can't fully explain it. I'm trying to as an author, but I can't fully explain it yet. But I want to know. I enjoy looking into it. I enjoy the search. So I just can't stand when somebody tries to put me down for it. I'm not sitting there and go and say you need to accept Jesus and praise the Lord. I'm not pushing those beliefs on anybody.
Right.
So leave me alone. You know what I mean? Just leave me alone, and you go have your own belief system, and let me have mine. I'd love to have a conversation with you about yours to see what I can learn from it. But if you're just going to put me down, then just get out of my face. You're more of a hindrance than me, because I'm not sitting here saying this is the absolute way. You need to believe in this. What's going on? I'm saying, hey, you might want to think about something, because the way the world works right now doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
And it's tough, because I think a lot of people, what their tactic is, and it hasn't been my tactic, is they choose their battles. So as soon as they get like a whiff of somebody having possibly presenting themselves with bad intentions, in other words, they're not really there to talk to you. They're there to get their rocks off, like causing trouble. Like they're just like, I'm going to shut you down. But sometimes people can present that way, and maybe that's not what their true motive is. So it's kind of like this balancing act, because I think what happens online a lot, and also we're already, I mean, in a lot of ways our world is smaller. We're existing with different types of people publicly, but privately in our lives, we're still very segmented culturally. So people that believe certain things tend to group together. So what you have is you have a lot of echo chambers. So there's sometimes, if we're too careful, and this is where I've been the last week or so, I've been more careful. I'm like, I'm not going there. Like, I'll see something in the past, I've gone in, waded in, and started engaging, and I'm like, I just don't think these people have an open mind enough, and I don't see them as having the good intentions that are necessary to have an open dialogue. Like, they want to talk to people that agree with them. You know what I mean? And that's fine. But I can just see it going, it's kind of like a risk-benefit calculation. Like, I see there's more risk of actually causing harm to people, even if it's a stranger online where I get nasty with them or even subtly snarky, and then I just send that bad energy out into the world, versus the possible benefit of actually opening someone's mind or me learning something. So I'm trying to balance, like, the risks of just my mood going down, and we've talked about that, how, like, over a course of a day, like, you have enough negative interactions with people, it starts to snowball into other areas of your life.
It really does. It really can. And there's some days, I mean, I feel it coming on, man. And this will kind of segue, I think, into some of what we're going to talk about tonight. But that negativity can, like, I'll have a bad day, and then I come home, and it's really hard for me to not get frustrated with my kids, because let's face it, kids can be a pain in the neck sometimes, especially when they're cranky, and I have to sit there and tell myself, it's not them, it's me. I had a bad day. It's not fair to take this out on my kids, but we don't always have the mental faculties in place, because we've had such a stressful day, to recognize it's not this person's fault.
We have finite resources, and I think that's the perfect segue, because I was trying to wrap my head around some of the stuff that you were talking about with, and I hope you don't mind if I just jump right into it.
Go for it.
About the archons, or the archons.
Right.
And I was like the idea that there's literally beings, like that was, I'm still agnostic about that. But we talked about in the last show, like, whether it's real or not real, it's not one or the other. Like, there's shades of truth in between, and I think that this idea of us having finite resources, finite energy, and that the negativity in the world, whether it's coming from a literal being, or maybe it creates these literal beings, wherever, like, the cause and effect is coming, like, that's what people, this is why I'm so open to what you're saying, because in my spiritual and just literal journey of life, like, that's the biggest error I've ever made, is thinking that I'm more in control over things that I'm not actually control over. And then I have these waves of negativity carry me in directions, and I find myself having to rationalize and justify what happened in order to retain a sense that I had control. Because it's like, Joel, it's very hard for the human ego and mind to say, I'm not in control in this. No, I chose to do that. No, you didn't. You were being, like, I may have chosen stupidly to initially engage with certain negativity, but not knowing that it was going to carry me in that direction. If someone had told me, I would have done it. But somewhere along the way, I lost at least part of my autonomy, at least part of my free will.
Right.
Like, I didn't have totally free will, and so that's why I'm so intrigued by this idea of these negative beings feeding on our fear and feeding. But go into it more. Go? I've gone on too long.
No. You haven't gone on too long, dude. Trust me. Let me take a step back. Let's see.
Sure.
There's two things I want to cover. In regards to what you just brought up. Right now, I've wanted to read this book for about a year. I'm reading a book right now by Robert Monroe called Far Journeys, because there's a section in this book that applies very much to the research that I'm doing for my current writing projects. But for those that aren't familiar with Robert Monroe, I know I've brought him up before. In 1958. I want to say roughly 1958, he discovered that when he'd be lying in bed, he'd all of a sudden be staring at himself lying in bed. And, over time he realized, oh my gosh, I'm out of my body. Am I dead? No, I'm not dead, because I get back in my body the next day and I walk around, that's fine. So he ended up with a handful of other people really researching this and identifying that, yes, this is a repeatable process, a verifiable scientific process where, and he postulates that everybody leaves their bodies every night. We just don't remember it. And in the book, that I was reading today, he made the comparison. He says, look, we don't always remember our dreams. It doesn't mean they don't happen. He says it's the same thing as saying, well, I got really drunk last night and passed out. I have no memory of it. Well, you can't sit there and say that didn't happen. We just don't understand how the faculty of memory works at this point in the game.
Exactly.
So he's proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that yes, this is a real event. And they would do things like they'd go meet somewhere and share a message, or they'd go look and see a certain location and be able to describe it accurately to prove that, hey, yes, they're viewing this stuff when their physical body is in a completely different location. So he's run through that. He's got books out there. There's interviews. There's a lot of documentation. The Monroe Institute trains people. Well, I don't want to say train people to do this. They have what's called the Gateway Program and several other programs that deal with this type of experience, of human experience. But what I'm talking about, it's a shame they just changed their website around. But for the longest time, they had they called them the Gateway tapes or the Monroe tapes. There were probably about 30 different tapes of experiencers as they're going through this out-of-body experience, and they're talking about the beings, or I should say the conscious entities or the consciousness that they encountered out there. So they were going out there and they were meeting other sources of intelligence that were not human, and person after person was doing this. And in some instances, these things were verified. In the book I'm reading right now today, he said, this one woman came let's say every Wednesday night at 5 o'clock, and 1 week she had to cancel. So he's given a tour of the facility that night since he had an opening, and this, he meets this other woman who comes in to see the facility. She was very skeptical. He says, well, let me hook you up to our process and our procedure. Let me show it to you. And she says, okay. She lays down in the booth. She's able to talk to him, through a microphone that's hanging above her face. And she goes, all of a sudden, she goes, hey, there's 4 people in this room trying to take me out of my body. What's going on? Long story short, he later played the tape of the woman who was supposed to be there but canceled. Her normal thing is these 4 beings, these 4 entities, show up every Wednesday at 5 o'clock when she's scheduled to come in and do her exploring, and they help take her out of her body. So, there was a verified fact right there that this is a real event, because this woman who has no knowledge of this, no knowledge of beings, no knowledge of the other woman, is sitting there saying, hey, there's 4 beings here arguing over should they take me out of my body or not. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of information, a lot of evidence out there that, yes, we are not alone. There are things that are out there. Either it's intelligence, it's consciousness, it's data. The world, I think, operates a lot like a computer system. And it might be just, they said in the Matrix, programs, coming after other programs. It may be something as simple as that, but there is something that's not human as we know it that's out there that people can communicate with. And again, the problem is, though, when you start having these discussions with people, they start looking at you like you're crazy and or that you're weird. But the reality is, those that are rolling their eyes, you're the weird ones. You're the ones that aren't willing to, you're laughing at something that's a fact right now at this point. You know, it's like laughing at Columbus saying the world's not round, you idiot. You know, well, guess who was right there? You know, it's the same thing that's been held back, and that's very frustrating. That's why I'm saying, that's why I'm taking the leap right now with my current writing projects. Like I said a couple of shows ago, I've come out of the closet. I'm not afraid to talk about my experiences, because I have woken up in similar states where I realize I'm not alone right now. You know, I'm fully conscious, and there's something else standing next to my bed right now, and I don't know what the hell it is. I don't know what the hell it wants, but it's terrifying me. You know, that stuff happens. It's happened to me my entire life. You know, and that's kind of what my journey, my next project is about. So, did I address your thing, Joel? I got kind of heated.
No, sure. Just to add to some of what, to kind of bolster or buttress some of the things you were saying, I would say, like, like the people who scoff at this, if you look at the long view of history, this is one of the only times that we know of in recorded human history where people would scoff at this kind of thing. So we're in the minority of human history, the last 100 years.
Right, and
people just don't believe in this kind of thing anymore.
And what's crazy is that, you know, we look at the old pagan traditions and the old Native American and indigenous traditions, and we call them savages.
Right.
You know, I mean, I remember being taught that in school, in elementary school. They were savages. Oh, they believed everything was a god because they didn't know science.
Right.
I grew up believing that, and now
kind of a straw man argument.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it really, but it downplayed them, and I looked at them like, wow, I don't have to put any value into anything they say, because they were stupid. That's really how I grew up thinking until I got a little bit older. I was like, well, a lot of this stuff that my intuition is telling me is the same stuff that these ancient cultures are talking about. So I'm one that has learned to follow my intuition, which is, you know, again, what we're supposed to be talking about with this show.
Well, you know? the thing I would say is that, just to put a little caveat on what I said, just because other people believe that doesn't mean it's necessarily true. It's just that's just a little fact. That doesn't confirm beyond a reasonable doubt that these things do exist. It's simply educating people that there have been people in societies, vast sections of societies where people believe this as a matter of fact before. So that's just something to consider. It's not the final argument, because that's, I forget what the fallacy is called, but it's something in Latin having to do with like a Latin word that means the public. It's like an appeal to the public, like in other words, and someone could come back with the vernacular saying like, well, if everybody was jumping off a bridge, would you? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
No. I'm not saying that this proves it. I'm just simply saying that that's some historical perspective on past beliefs about these kind of things.
But that's the perspective we need. Those are the types of healthy discussions we need to have. You know,
sure.
With the way that you and I are going back, because I know, like you said, you're really kind of struggling to try to fully accept some of the things that I'm saying, and that's fine. You know, again, I'm not the prophet. I'm not anything like that. I've had my own experiences, and where I've gotten my validation from is, I have an experience, and I will develop a theory or an understanding of what I think is happening. And then sometimes years later, I'll hear somebody with, a lot more experience than me or a lot more courage than me, because they're out there talking about it publicly. And they not only describe exactly what happened, then they'll sit there and say almost word for word the theory I have in my head. And this has happened to me quite a few times in my life, where I'm sitting there going, you know what? I need to just start going with my gut and saying, this is what I experienced, this is what I think it means, and so does somebody else. And at a bare minimum, that warrants more investigation, more, formal investigation, because there's so many people. They just had, it was a year ago, 2 years ago, the Disclosure Project. Everybody talks about, there's no such thing as UFOs. This Disclosure Project took people in Congress. It wasn't an official convening of Congress, but they were I think they were former congressmen and women, and they held the same way Congress would hold I don't know the formal term, an inquiry, and they brought, I want to say, hundreds of witnesses. And when I say witnesses, I mean doctors, prior military, police officers, people that are considered expert witnesses, and they talked about the things that they've witnessed, the things that they've encountered, and at the end they made the conclusion, yes, there is something else going on out there. This is credible evidence.
Absolutely.
But that's what this disclosure project's about, is they want the government to admit, hey, UFOs are real. That's never going to happen. And in my opinion, I don't need it to happen, because I think we have enough information right now, and that's where we need to start acting on. There's enough information out there. And I'm not sitting here saying, aliens are going to come take over the world. I'm not even convinced that what is going on is alien. I think there's a lot about the Earth that we don't understand at this point in time. But we do know there are craft that are out there that aren't, at least on our official, record of being created by any of our known countries, and it warrants further inquiry to try to understand what's
Absolutely.
going on here around our world.
As you were talking earlier, I was trying to remember this well-known feminist author, and I got her name wrong because I kind of mix up the different feminists because my mother was a feminist. Well, her name is Barbara Ehrenreich, and she is a self-described atheist. And her latest book was called Living with a Wild God, A Non-Believer's Search for the Truth About Everything. So most feminists, her included, come from what's called a secular humanist background. And I heard her interviewed, and she says that she's a lifelong atheist. Her parents were atheists. Most of her contemporaries and people she supported were at least agnostic, if not atheist. Well, in her interview and in this book, she described exactly what you were talking about that Monroe experienced, or the
Right.
people where she had experiences with what she described as conscious beings. She didn't believe that they were gods,
Right.
but she believed that they were intelligent entities,
Right.
disembodied intelligent entities that did not exist in physical form. So this is coming
Yep.
from somebody who her entire worldview would tell her not to believe in this type of thing, and she didn't. It's not as if she suddenly converted to some kind of religion. She still doesn't believe in God in the traditional sense.
Right.
But she had experiences, and she was willing to go on a pretty liberal, pretty secular, like NPR, and on the show Fresh Air with Terry Gross, and tell people about it. So these things are happening with not just, because people sometimes pigeonhole it's all just these people over here who are into that
Right.
kind of thing, the New Age
Right.
people.
Yeah, the New Agers. Right.
Yeah, and so she's not a New Ager, and she actually describes herself on this wiki page as a professional mythbuster by trade. So in other words, she's always been kind of analyzing or trying to like one of her books were what happened. I'm paraphrasing, but it's something to the effect of how positive thinking has undermined America. You might disagree with that because you talk about positive thinking.
No, I completely agree with it, because I think
because
the way it's implemented is wrong.
Some of the ways it's framed. Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
No,
I didn't mean to misrepresent you.
No, you're fine, dude. You're fine. It's all good. But no, I completely agree with that. I mean, and the New Age movement has been corrupted. I mean, I think the way it started out was with very good intentions, with a lot of the stuff that that we kind of talk about here. New Age really, I think, is more the old age, the old way.
Right.
But with this, surround yourself with love and light, and everything's going to be fine. Get out of my face with that stuff. You're parroting something that I think you may make yourself feel good when you hear that, but that's not really. You know what? There I am being dismissive and being, you know what I mean?
Panacea is like a false medication. It's like a sugar pill where you think that it's going to fix everything, but there's real work to be done, and there are real, for lack of a better word, forces to contend with.
Right.
It's not just a simple, I'll be nice to everybody. I mean, that doesn't always work. You have to be working on what comes before being nice. Do you understand? I think I've talked about that a lot in my struggles, where I'll set out with great intentions on any given day, but if I'm not taking care of myself, I'm once again being carried by sometimes it can be simple physical forces, like I'm too hungry, I didn't get enough sleep, I have something on my mind that I left neglected, like my affairs are not in order and not organized, so that naturally, no matter how positively you're thinking, is going to cause you stress because you had something you needed to do, and then I'll lash out at somebody because I'm not taking care of my affairs.
Right. No, you're absolutely right, Joel. And hey, just to interject, I'm getting a note from Lori. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that last name, but the woman you just spoke about, Barbara, go ahead, help me out with
Ehrenreich.
Iron Reich. Yeah, I wouldn't have got that. She said it's in the Fresh Air archives on the NPR show.
It is.
It's from April 8th, 2014. So Lori's hooking us up there.
Thanks,
so check
Lori.
that if you're interested in finding that. It's April 8th, 2014. So good stuff, Lori. Appreciate you showing that to us. Where was I? So, but yeah, Joel, you're absolutely right. It's neat that she took that stance because, again, there's more to, I guess, what we're being taught or what we've come to accept about, who we are in our lives. And I think we need to really start to challenge a lot of our current dogmas. And if your belief system holds up to that challenge, then that's great. That's great for you. But if it doesn't, you can only grow from it. And my whole world has been shattered in the past when I found out the spiritual path isn't everything I thought it's been. And that's not just modern religion. There's been other times when I've really thought, hey, this is the way to go, and I realized, you know what, I'm kind of going the wrong way. And I've gone into depression about it, but I feel so much better now knowing a lot of this stuff and I don't want to say no, at this point, understanding things from this vantage that I have right now. I really don't know if I know anything at all. Other than what, according to Descartes, I exist. I think
right. That's the base. Yeah, that's the base. But fundamental assumption.
But again, in my experience, there's more to us, and there's more around us that we just aren't willing to or aren't able to see at this point in our existence. And go ahead, Joel.
I just wanted to share. This is the other tack. Listening to you. I've always been incredibly skeptical because just like you, I want to believe in these things.
Right.
So that in and of itself makes me a little skeptical. So I'm like, I don't want to just be drawn into something simply because I desire it, because that's often how people get trapped by things. In other words, all that glitters is not gold. You want something so bad that, I've had in relationships where I wanted a relationship to work so bad that I blinded myself to the truths that were in front of me.
Yeah,
so I've always looked at this in an incredibly critical eye, but from a very early age, there was always something going on with dreams, right? So the conventional scientific understanding of dreams is that they're just your brain just processing stuff, processing information that you've gathered in your life. And I remember Freud said something, he said something to the effect, you cannot dream about somewhere you have never been.
Right.
And it's just, I was like, that's so patently false, at least in my experience. I got to tell you, Dennis, it's so hard to put into words, and I've tried to explain it to other people, but if you ever go to a place you've never been before and it's just so brand new, say you traveled, you went overseas. You probably went to Serbia and you had an expectation, maybe you saw some pictures of how it was going to look. At least I do that. I always, because I'm kind of I'm a little neurotic, so I'm kind of trying to prepare, wondering what the setup is going to be like. I'm imagining what it's going to be like because I'm anxious, and it's always different. And it's and then you come away from there with this sense of place, which is composed of the smells, the sounds, the people, the energy, and the experiences you had with the people that is a thing. It's a vibe. That's what people sometimes, and that's the word vibe is so, it's not a word that is really tangible, but I can't think of a better word for it. I go to different places that are as real as when I've traveled overseas or I met a new person or just your life. I can never imagine where I'm living and the people I'm around now, even 6 months ago. It's just new. It's a brand new set of characters. It's a brand new movie, so to speak.
And this is all in your dreams, you're saying?
Different movies every single night, Dennis.
Yeah.
And they're so I cannot believe that my subconscious can hold all these universes. Now they're all humans there, but they're all I'm in a brand new life. I lived somewhere else and was a totally different person. And these people I meet, sometimes they resemble people in my real life, but they're different people. And I have this sense of familiarity with them the way I have familiarity with you or my girlfriend Jillian.
You know
Do you
what?
understand what I'm saying?
I completely. You're not alone in that. If you start thinking about the multiverse, that's basically saying, given infinite possibility, which is what exists. We talked about that in our last show. If everything is possible, that means every possible choice you could make exists somewhere in some universe, out there. And in listening, listen to me stuttering, I'm so excited. In listening to some of this data that's come out of the Monroe Institute, there are multiple aspects of us. You're not just Joel Schaefer, or you may be Joel Schaefer, but you exist in multiple different universes, multiple different dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
And in thinking about that combination of, I'm losing my train of thought here. That combination of the multiverse and of you having the multiple aspects of yourself. I think that we do exist in other dimensions or other universes, and at times when we're sleeping, that's when our body is loose and free to kind of connect with those other aspects of ourself. And I think you're experiencing that. I've had those experiences. I've had experiences where at one point, a woman that I know not very well, who I don't like in this reality, I've had 3 or 4, and this is going back years, but I had 3 or 4 dreams about her where she was my lover, and I'm not talking about, I wasn't having, grown-up sex dreams about her, but I was madly in love with this girl, and I knew her intimately, but I didn't remember it until I went to work one day, and I saw her, and I thought, wow, I don't hate her today, why? And then everything came flooding back, where it was like, I had a life with this girl. Oh my gosh! And it hit me, and I started, and I've had these experiences quite a few times throughout my life where I'm thinking, I know this person. I had these feelings for this person, and it doesn't always have to be romantic. I mean, I've had people where I've had experiences where it's like, I really don't like you because we had this encounter in this life that was different, but our energy was the same. So I don't think you're wrong at all, Joel. I think this definitely does happen. It absolutely does. It's fascinating.
It leads me to believe, and my mother told me that the Aborigines, the Australian Aborigines, say something similar to this. But I've often thought this, and I know it's not an original thought. I know other people have thought of it, but I almost feel like we have it reversed, where we look at our waking life as the real thing we do, and then our sleep supports the waking life.
Yes.
And I almost look at it reverse, where the real thing that we're actually doing while we're alive, the most important thing that we're doing is when we're asleep and we're dreaming. And our waking life is to support that. It's like to keep our body fed, the physical, so that we can go dream and sleep and do the energy work that we're doing in that other world or worlds.
But we've been so distracted from that aspect, and a lot of us aren't doing that, and we're kind of trapped in a cycle.
Yeah, well, people, especially in America, and they even had me being fed this idea that sleep is not important. Like, I have so many, I had to argue with people online, and I got defensive, but I think I got defensive rightly so, where I said I need to sleep 8 to 10 hours. And people were like, oh, like implying I was lazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. Like,
you go to work when you go to sleep, Some people
desperately need it. I'm a different person if I don't get it. And I was only focusing on how my physical life was affected. I wasn't even getting into, because I couldn't even broach the subject because they would just laugh at that. I couldn't even get into, well, I'm neglecting the spiritual side of my life by not dreaming enough.
Right. No, you're absolutely right, and that's an important aspect. When I can't meditate or I can't do my Tai Chi, that affects me, because that's how I connect with my spiritual side. And my mind's always out there. And that's important to me. When I don't get my time to do that, that really definitely affects me. And I think so many people have shut that off. And this ties into, we didn't get in as deep into intuition as I wanted tonight, but that's fine. That can be another show. But that is your intuition, that drive. So many people have shut that off. And it's like unplugging from your power source. It's as if you have the internet, and all of a sudden you take it out, you turn it down, or you slow down your download speed. That's, I think, what's been happening with people. The more you get into this, you look at all these things that we talk about on the show. They all seem separate. Well, I reached a point in my understanding that, holy crap, it's all connected.
Yeah.
The fear-mongering that's going on, the trauma in politics, the corruption of education, even down to the food we eat. I mean, we're energetic beings. We resonate at a certain frequency. The food that we're putting in our bodies, these genetically modified organisms, are affecting the structure of DNA. And that's affecting your ability to resonate. It's affecting your Wi-Fi signal to connect with the greater universe that's out there. And I think in order to get back to that, again, you have to make those small changes that we always talk about here. That's where it starts, and you have to be able to have the discussions that you and I are having publicly. And and this, a lot of times I find it's so easy for somebody to come up to me and say, and I'm not knocking it, but to say, praise Jesus, God is great, just pray and everything will be okay. Sometimes that makes me uncomfortable because that's not my belief system.
Sure.
And it makes me uncomfortable because I don't want to say, I don't buy into that. That's not for me. I don't want to pray that way. But I'm always afraid, well, they're going to be offended because I'm not a follower of that faith. I'm tired of worrying about offending people. I mean no offense. I just don't practice your belief. What if I sat there and, I want to start talking about this stuff more publicly without people getting uncomfortable, So I think we all need to come to that common understanding, that common ground. I allow people to express that.
Sure.
People with our thoughts should be able to have those discussions more publicly, because until that happens, the change isn't going to move forward.
I think it's really interesting, though, because, like, you were talking about how we didn't touch on intuition, and I just thought instantly that the intuitive realm is more of the subconscious realm, which is the realm that we touch more in meditative states or spiritual states or in the dream state. And actually the irony of it is that I think, now this isn't all Christians, but even some of these nominal Christians were just saying they're giving you like a real watered down like sales version of Christ. Just say you're saved by Jesus and go to church and you'll be okay.
Right.
I think the ones that really take it seriously, they might not use the same words as us, but they may not be operating with the same logical this focus on logic and reason and productivity and functionality, like all the waking world stuff, all the physical material things that our culture are highly productive, the wealthiest nation in the history of the world. Like, I'm not going to knock it because we have all the conveniences and all the long life and all the health advances because of it, but there's been an overemphasis on all that. And I think, to their credit, the ones who are willing to talk to you about it and really not get caught up in language, they'll tell you that they're guided by something inside of them. So they're really following their intuition sometimes.
Right. And some people call that the Christ consciousness.
Or the Holy Spirit.
Or the Holy, right. And that's something that, I've heard that quite a few times over the last couple weeks, I want to say, hearing about the Holy Spirit, and I just made it because I had shut that down because I'm not religious anymore.
I understand.
But then I made a connection. I was like, you know what? That's just that energetic life force.
Exactly, man.
And that's so. It doesn't matter what you call it. Multiple cultures have a word for it, a description for it. There is an energy, a life force, a consciousness that connects everybody and everything.
Exactly.
And I can't tap into it as well as some people, some of the people that I've read and listened to, but I hear it loud and clear. I listen to it every day. Everything I do, I let my intuition guide me. When I get stuck at a crossroads, I feel my way through life, and that's kind of what, if I can give a segue, because we're running out of time, but the book that I'm writing right now, it's part one of a two-part book, and the way this all started out was in 2009, man. I was up, all night with all this stuff racing through my head, but none of it made any sense. So I forced myself out. I jumped out of bed, I should say, and I wrote everything down, and I got an essay out of it that I don't know where it came from. I know that part of it was my thought, but part of it was stuff I had never considered before. So I was tapping into some level of, I call it a download, Joel. That's the only way I can explain it. And it gave me clarity, and that's what started to explain, I guess, my role, humanity's role in the universe, on Earth, in the food chain, and like I said, and it started to explain those visitors that I was seeing in the night that would show up and terrify me, So this essay gave me a lot of focus and clarity on that. So that's the first part of this book that I'm putting out, that I encourage our readers, check out serviceofchange.com/IamHuman, and just sign up for the newsletter. And once the book's released, I'm looking to have it out in the next month and a half. I'm going to send you a free e-copy you get a free ebook because I think it's so powerful, so important, and I want the conversation to get started. So please go to servicechange.com/IamHuman and check that out because I think it's an important project, something important to read and make your own decisions because I'd like to hear what people think about it. I'm still trying to figure out what all this means, and that's why Joel and I are doing what we're doing. We're trying to understand what's going on with us and the world around us.
I got to tell you though, the one thing that I wasn't able yet to touch on, but I want to touch on it briefly here was I've had dreams, and a couple of them I had a Korean friend. I had a bunch of Korean friends, but this one girl, her name is Sue. She's actually still my Facebook friend, so shout out to Sue. She would tell me about their Korean myths about ghosts, and in the years after that, I had these two dreams where these ghosts or these demons or what I mean, Dennis, it was so real.
Yeah.
It was so. I mean, they were talking in different languages that I could probably have never heard before. Like, I know people would say, well, yeah, you probably watched a movie where they're talking Korean or something, but it was, even talking about it now, where
right. You still
my mind is open, in other words, because these experiences, when I woke up after that, I was like, that was real. Because it was different than other dreams. Like there was a difference. Like there were certain dreams where it's kind of like I'm just processing what happened in my day. Like I had a dream about something that happened. I had a dream about people in my life. Like it seemed like more artificial. Where this just seemed so vivid and so just it was scary. It was probably the scariest thing that ever happened to me in my entire life, including like near-death experiences and like just terrible like stuff that like I was nearby. Like it was incredibly frightening, and I don't know what it is, but I'm also open to the other things that I've had. I've had these dreams where I'm flying.
That's common with the out-of-body experiences that Monroe talks about.
It was the greatest, Dennis. Now on that other extreme, greatest feeling I've ever had.
A lot of people who say once they disconnect from their physical body, they're free of all that emotional baggage, and they just feel. And that's what the Buddha talked about with experiencing that state of nirvana. It's it's a very similar concept. They say they just feel so free and surrounded. And this sounds a little new agey, but they it's just surrounded by universal love. So too many people have reported these experiences, and I get frustrated, Joel. So many days I love what I do. I love my job, but so many days I drive to work knowing all of this stuff is out there, and I say to myself, what am I doing? I'm sitting in traffic, and I'm going to go, again, nothing against my job or my students, but I know that I should be doing more because this information is out there and it's available, and it's not, hey, go drink the Kool-Aid, or go do something weird and goofy. It's simple stuff that people can do to open your mind a little bit to benefit your life and the world around us. So I get so frustrated with myself sometimes saying, I want to be doing more with this.
Well, trust the program. Trust your download. Trust your operating system.
Joel, I do. I really do.
But you have that drive, which is a good thing. I feel the same way. I get so disappointed and discouraged sometimes too, because I'm the same as you. I'm like, I get these down times, and I'm like, I could be doing more. I could be doing more, because I think we both have, coming from different places, we have different kinds of work ethics. I think your work ethic is a little better than mine, but
I'd say just different. I'll just say it's different than yours. I mean, you get stuff accomplished too, But
well, I have bursts of energy, and then I get upset, and then I have downtime. That's part of my energetic composition.
But you learn. That's part of your learning process too.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody goes through this journey differently, And real quick, I'm thinking back. I remember right before I published Service. I was still in my original house in Aston, and I'm sitting there thinking, all right, I hope to go. Within the next 2 years, I really see myself. I'd love to go live somewhere in the mountains, and have my own radio show, and talk about this type of spiritual stuff. And I remember sitting there thinking, and I saw it. I saw me sitting in an office somewhere in the mountains doing this, having a show, talking about this exact subject. And I remember sitting there going, but my book's about education, military, and police. How am I going to make that jump? And like you said, just trust the program. here we are, dude. What are we doing? You know, we're on our 38th show tonight. You know, it's just an amazing thing. Now I'm finally at a point. I've got, you know, a book ready to drop about this very subject. I mean, I couldn't be more thrilled because I followed my intuition. I listened to what that drive told me, even though it conflicts with everything out there that, you know, that's popular nowadays, that, you know, that people will tell you. You know, I followed my gut, my instinct, and I'm happy. I feel good about what I'm doing. I don't know where it's going to lead, but you know, I'm excited to find out.
Well, and it was good that you didn't leapfrog all that other stuff, because I think I can't nail it down in words, but the military, the school, the police. No, I didn't do that in order, but that all was part of this.
You're absolutely. I would not have the perspective. Yep.
Because you need the physical too, or it wasn't the physical totally, but it was more this nuts and bolts of this world. Like you can't. And I think that's what we're talking about. One of the problems with the New Age movement is I went straight to like the practical when I was talking about it, where I need to have my affairs in order. Like, like a lot of people, and I've heard a lot of it was even the popular movie where they popularized that Eat, Pray, Love. Was that book where Julia Roberts played the main character, and she went to India to try to become, you know, enlightened, and the guy there was telling her, and this is a common trend with people that try to explore Eastern religions. They haven't yet like abandoned the superstructure of the West, their culture, and so they're dilettants is the word.
And
they
want a crash course in
exactly.
You know, let me go see a guru and let me become enlightened in a week.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
It's a slow process.
Exactly.
And, you know, and it literally takes at least one lifetime. Usually they say it takes many lifetimes to understand this. You know, and that's how I look back on it. Like as a kid, I remember being a young kid going, I just want to know, I just want to learn, and now, like I'd say, I set out to have all these things answered, and now I do have the understanding I desired as a kid, but I have 1,000 more questions than I had, you know, now. So now I feel even more in the dark than I did when I was younger. But at least I know I'm on a path that's making sense to me, and I am learning as I go. But you know, it's so common for people to say, I want it all now, especially, you know, in the West. Right, get it now, but you can't learn it that way, you know, and I talk about this in my book. Like, sometimes it takes weeks, months, years when you learn one piece of information where your system of beliefs, your standards, your way you view the world is it's dismantled, and that's jarring. That is very difficult to accept.
And you can't start rebuilding, to use a metaphor. I mean, you're probably going to rebuild using some of the materials that you dismantled. Maybe some of maybe the foundation will remain, whatever the metaphor is. But you can't rush and start to rebuild while you're still demolishing.
Right. You got it. Right. It's got to be broken down, you know, and then slowly built back up through your own experiences. You know, you can read all the books you want, but until you start trying to apply it in your own life, you know, that's always been my thing. Like, all right, I'm going to read this, and now how can I manifest this, or how can I, you know, have that particular experience? And sometimes I never have the experiences that I'm going for. I have a totally different experience.
Sure.
That's just the way the journey goes, you know. And Joe, I could go on for another hour and a half tonight, but, you know,
one final thing that you triggered in me that I wanted to address, sure. And I think Brian Barr talked a little bit about it, how we have these polar opposites in our culture and our society, and we touched on something like between the spiritual and the material.
Right.
And it's strange because there's common's not the right word. There's imbalances in both directions. So you have like the Christian tradition, which kind of neglects the material for the spiritual. And it's not even quite the original Christian view. It's more the Christianity that evolved, and we had talked about that, like post-Nicene Creed, post Constantine embracing Christianity, more of like the Middle Ages like, view of it, where it's like neglect the flesh, and it actually looked at the flesh as just being wholly corrupt. Like you couldn't find anything in the flesh that was worth anything.
Suffering
with sin.
The flesh is sinful, and all that stuff.
And I think some of that is in our culture, where you have people who are actually in both extremes, because they're totally in the material world in terms of their value system, but then they want to go and embrace the spiritual in an abstract way, like you said, go read a book or go like learn this religious practice or whatever, and they're like compartmentalizing them separately when they have to interact. And I think
left
like
brain.
yeah, and like thinking about your like journey, and I think to a certain extent my journey, like it just dawned on me that we've been living, like we've been experiencing. And so I think I don't want to praise us too much because I think we have a long way to go.
We do, but praise away. I like some praise every once in a while. We're pretty
but
awesome.
I mean, I think that we earned our right to talk about these things. Now, there's still a problem abstracting them too much because I think you can get bogged down in abstractions where it's just words. You know, and you get confused, and then you get start arguing about terminology, and then you miss the point, and then there's more division than actual unity, and nobody learns anything. But I think we've earned the right because I think both of us can see the foundation, the roots of this in our experiences with real people, like in a variety of different people. Like we see what we're talking about. Like we're not coming to this from an academic. We're not coming from this isolated place where we've never had any experiences. And we're just like, yeah, there's energy in the world. You know what I mean?
Absolutely right, Joel.
Like we've seen this. Like I felt the energy in people. Like it's like I felt it. Like I'm getting chills now. Like I felt people's fear. Like across the street, across rooms, across neighborhoods. I felt their hope and their joy and I felt that energy in real people. So I'm not just saying, oh, there's energy. Like,
no, you're absolutely right. You had that direct experience, Joel, and I agree with you completely. You know, and like you said, we've earned that right, and I don't want to, and I don't think you came off this way at all. I love exactly what you said. I'm always afraid to sound arrogant when I admit that fact, but yeah, I've been through it. I've been through my own trenches. I've literally faced my demons.
Yeah.
You know, and I want to talk about it because I hope that maybe one thing that I say is going to give somebody that little bit of hope to say, you know what, let me keep looking because things can get better. Because I'm so thankful, and we got about a minute left because we're already 10 minutes over.
I think we both have this because if we're going to help people spiritually and we're going to go on our own spiritual journey, we also understand, we know how to navigate the practical and the material. I think that's part of it too. So we're not just going to throw out advice, because if you throw out spiritual advice to somebody whose life is in disorder, like I was talking about materially, it's not going to work. It actually might hurt them because it's going to distract them from actually putting their affairs in order. So we know how to like crawl before we walk, I think.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, it can be a dangerous thing. And again, I could go on all night long, but I need to start to close out the show.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Again, I'm gonna encourage people, please, our listeners, thank you so much. You can get us on iTunes, you get us at servicechange.com, facebook.com/servicechange. Follow me on Twitter, Dennis Nappy II, Nappii. You can also link up a lot more spiritual stuff and YouTube videos and stuff at Truth Seekers. That's TruthSeekers. Check out at Lori Latimer 1. Her book, The Art of Service, a collection of haiku poems, is coming out on May 2nd in paperback and in ebook version. You can pre-order today at Amazon.com. Check out the link at the Service of Change page associated with this Changecast. And lastly, please go to servicechange.com/IamHuman or sign up for the secret newsletter. It's all over Service to Change. Sign up for that newsletter, and you will get a free copy of my I Am Human ebook. You can also go there today, and you can vote on. I'm still trying to decide on a subtitle for it. Could really use your help there. So please check that out. Help us out. Please continue to share and like and spread the word. For our show, that's the best way you, the listener, can help us out. And don't forget, servicechange.com. Click the banner at the top. You can get the Service Change app for free right to your phone. Have all this stuff sent to you. Really good stuff there. So we are over our time limit this evening, so I need to go ahead and end the show. A big thank you to Lori Latimer for her support, our Twitter support, our social media support, our research behind the scenes. Lori does so much for the show. Lori, I love you. Thanks for all your help. We're going to go out and go ahead and close out the show. Please remember that small changes among the masses can have a massive impact around the world. Be that change. Thank you.